and also some government responses are very different than responses from other governments, which means that there are very different situations. On the other hand, there are also similarities, and that's always the case in this network. What we do is we come together and we talk about what we all do, which is sharing books, book gifting programs, and then we discuss the differences and we try to learn from each other. So again, this meeting today is to share our ideas and our best practices, and to get inspired by what others do. And this may help you to have a better response in your own country. And maybe as a result, we may present some of this to our website so other people can learn from it as well. So beforehand, Peter has asked you to send a short report about your situation, and he's combined this in a document that or I think all of us or most of us have seen. If you did not, it's not a big issue. It's not a problem. Because we want to have an open discussion. So discussion is about two themes. The first theme is our response to the crisis regarding the book gifting delivery. So that's the core business we all do, the book gifting program. How did we respond to the crisis in relation to that? And the second topic, the second half hour, we want to talk about your digital response, because most programs or organizations have had some kind of digital response to the crisis. So to start off, before I start, are there any questions about the agenda or any additions or any remarks about the way we want to do this? Now is the time to say so.
Dan, can I just also say, during conversation, it's useful for people to put questions to you on the chat script,
yes,
and then you are prepared for asking them to ask a question.
Yes, and I think probably you will be reading those questions, and then maybe
I will try
moderate the questions a bit. Yes, that's fine. Thank you. And also, before we start, I'd like to emphasize that this is, well, you could call this a trial meeting, because it's a bit different than the meetings we're used to. Usually when the global network meets, we have 2 or 3 short presentations that we all watch, and then we respond to that. So this is a bit different. We're trotting new terrain, so to say, and we hope all goes well. And if it goes well, we may advise EU Read, the network that is our, you could say, our parent, to do the same for the EU Read members. But that's not of interest to all of you. So the first topic is the book gifting delivery and our response to it. Most of us work with libraries or healthcare institutions, and libraries may be closed, healthcare institutions may be closed. Well, they will not be closed, but they may be very busy with Corona at the moment. So we noticed from your initial responses that some of you are still in business. Some of you are like half in business. They're partially closed but partially working, and some have come to a full stop. So would anyone start off the discussion who is really still in business and has found a way to keep doing their job, their work, the book gifting program through the crisis? Does anybody like to start? It's very silent, because I thought that in Australia, for instance, South Australia, I noticed that the program is still up and running there. Am I correct?
Yes, I think in South Australia, in comparison to internationally, particularly for Europe, we've been quite fortunate that our COVID-19 cases haven't been as extreme, and we've had particular things like pubs, clubs, etc., all closed down. But our preschools have still been relatively operating, and childcare is still operating. And how we distribute our packs across South Australia, we have a whole range of stakeholders that we provide the packs to. So we are still able to provide the majority of our baby and toddler reading packs to a whole range of services. What we have, and I'd say it's internationally, is the most vulnerable families who are at risk. And we're finding a lot of the services we support, like United Care Wesley Bowden, Salvation Army, that they're inundated with families and vulnerable families. So what we've done is, over the last probably 3 weeks, has provided an additional 15,000 books that we've put out across the state, and we're doing that predominantly with preschools and also a lot of other NGOs, so they can be giving books out to their families. So that's one of the things. So, well, that's an additional on top of our universal book gifting program.
So you could actually say that you're not doing less, but even more at the moment.
We're doing a lot more, and it's really quite interesting that I think because the nature, and it's like with other organisations, the nature of how we work across the state, we have a whole range of different stakeholders that we work with and support. And so what we've found is that they're wanting even more resources and more support. So it's like, how do we provide additional resources like pitch books, board books, and also activities, and how do we also make those available online? So we've spent probably the last 5 to 6 weeks really working on that focus.
Okay. Does anyone want to comment on that? Because what I hear in your story is that your chain, so to speak, is still very much active. So while some institutions have closed, education is still open.
Yeah.
Schools are still open, so you still find a way to bring those books.
Yes. I was just going to say, one other thing that we found, because we work really closely with the preschools and we provide a preschool reading pack, so 23,000 go out at the beginning of the year. But there were a lot of schools at the end of the term who all thought that they'd be going online. And so a lot of the preschools were then developing literacy kits, which they were sending home to the parents, and really thinking about how they, particularly with numeracy, literacy and oral language, how they supported it in the home. So it was really an interesting prospect from our viewpoint of seeing preschool directors and really thinking about their relationship with their families in the home, even more so, and how they engage with them. And so what we're finding is that a lot of them, because the last week of school, their children were actually at home. And so a lot of the preschool directors were actually ringing their families on a weekly basis and maintaining contact. So it was quite interesting to see that they were really engaging, but using literacy as that engagement, which was really quite heartening to see.
That's really interesting, yes. So the relationship between home and school changed.
Yes.
I've seen that happening here in the Netherlands as well. Does anybody else want to comment on that maybe? About how things have changed in relation to schools and
Well, I could just comment this quickly from Helsinki, Finland. I've noticed the same thing, that this is actually quite good opportunity to talk about the importance of reading and reading together, and finding some kind of strength and also some kind of comfort from these moments of reading together. We've been actually on our news broadcast and newspapers with this message already during this exceptional time. when it comes to our program, we are running normally because schools are closed and everything else is closed in Finland as well. But because we are giving our book bags in health clinics for the families during the baby's first year, the health clinics are running these checkups for families with children less than 1 year old. So that's precisely our target group. So we have been able to continue normally.
Okay. Does that go for other countries as well? That if you work with health organizations, that you still find that you still in their system, so to say, that they're still giving out your books? Does anybody have that experience?
Someone else speaking.
No, it's okay.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we obviously work with health visitors to gift our baby and our toddler bags, and we're finding it's quite patchy across the country. As to, some health visitors are still doing that, and some just don't have the capacity to do that at the moment. I think we're probably going to have to cancel our June quarterly deliveries, but what we are hoping to do is to provide book donations through the local authority education hubs to those most vulnerable families. So that's what we're focusing on at the moment.
Okay. Okay, and Sabine?
Yes, in Germany, our program, we work with the pediatricians together, and they still are busy. They see the families, and the parents go there with the children. So our program runs as this is planned. But in Germany, all schools are closed and the kindergartens are closed. So it's really difficult situations for the families because they have to learn the homeschooling and babysitting the whole day, the whole week. This is really a big problem, and indeed a big problem for the families who are not really well educated and have they are living very close together. There's a very big problem for these families. But we see that the literacy, the reading aloud thing is really, it's going up from 0 to 100, I don't know, because a lot of people, they are very happy and use and need all the support with the stories and all these things. So we are very busy in these items, and we find many digital solutions.
Yeah, we may hear more of that in the second half, so to say, when we talk about digital responses. I'm really curious to hear about that.
Dan, it would be interesting to hear from USA. Reach out and read on their
yes, please.
Work as well.
Go ahead.
Yes, so with Reach Out and Read, we usually start in infancy and go through age 5. And with the primary way that the U.S. health system is set up with immunizations, most of our visits happen in the first 2 years. And so what we've been hearing from our clinics and our health partners is that clinics are still encouraging families to come in for immunizations and well-child visits in those first 2 years. And that's when we're focusing our programs, and we know that we'll see a decrease in number of visits for those, starting at age 2.5 through age 5. And so that's where we're experimenting with this digital approach. And also in the US in pediatrics, there has not been a focus on telehealth. So in the past month, it's been a crash course for pediatrics in general, and what are the gaps in terms of how pediatricians are reaching out to families through telehealth in a very new way. And we're seeing there are gaps in kind of the training that's available to providers. One thing that's interesting with the telehealth is one health system described it to us as the in-person visits are really about the body, because you can actually hold the child and give the shots and look in their ears, and the telehealth visits are more about the mind and the social emotional development. And so that's where we're focusing, how can we use a book and the messaging and, the chance to, like we're doing now, seeing, literally into families' homes in a way that doctors couldn't do that before. And how does that help just provide some data on how to support this, encourage this reading aloud moment, and who's in the home, and how can relationships be a big part of the solution here through books.
That's very interesting. And do they still feel the do they think it's still as important as it was before? Because yes.
Yes, you know, that's the message of being home and just spending time with your family, and what can you do, and you know, how do you have access to books? So that's why we're really wanting to find continue access to books, making sure books are home, are in the home, and what are the ways that we can continue to you know, promote this idea of reading aloud together and building it into daily routines in a very new way.
Okay, thank you. Am I correct that in Malta, the book gifting program is also still in business?
We work with schools, all schools or childcare centers, universities, everything is closed in Malta. So we found a way with the Malta Trust Foundation, which has set up a food aid project, and they're giving.
Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
I'm muted by you, by host.
Because I was trying to unmute you. Yes, yeah,
Okay.
go on, yes.
So we work with schools, and like I said, all schools are closed. They will be closed till the end of June. I think I am muted again.
No.
No, okay. And so we couldn't hand out our book bags, and we worked with the Malta Trust Foundation, which has set up a food aid project. And every 3 weeks, they are giving out food packs to vulnerable families. And we've come with an agreement with them. We are checking how many children in the families, and we're going to give books to all children from 5 to 18-year-olds. So that because our work is mainly with vulnerable families, and as you know, they don't have, most of them don't have any books at home. And so we provide these books, and at this time it's more important that they are provided with books, as even libraries are closed. There are also projects with going on between teachers and students, and we found that some children didn't have a computer to work on digitally, and the government is providing laptops to children. Private companies are lending computers to keep the learning going on.
Yes, I get a sense that although we are in this very important crisis, that the work we do, the book gifting program, is actually in most countries is considered more important and not less important, because vulnerable families now feel a stronger need to have access to books and to read to their children. How is that in Taipei?
And Dan, there's a question that's just come from Annie.
Okay.
I'd like to ask, but I think it has a relevance to Taipei, because
Okay.
Taipei
Go ahead.
is a bit like we might be once things loosen up in some months' time.
Exactly. So the question to you, or to all, at this moment we're fully or half closed down. The question is, so how do we plan to start again? What are the challenges when the crisis? Well, the crisis isn't over, but when the most strict restrictions are over, and maybe in Taipei they have some experience with that. Is that true?
Ms. Tseng, would you like to answer?
We are happy to join this meeting. It's a good opportunity for us to share our experiences. In Taipei now, in Taiwan, most of our public libraries still open. Only one city closed their public libraries, so they stop their services. But they provide a package for people to pick so they can study, they can read books at home. But most of our public library still open, and our public library are partners of Xinyi Foundation. 信义坊那边信义房屋了。Xinyi Foundation, Xinyi Foundation donate books to public libraries, and public libraries deliver gift bag to parent, to a newborn parent. And so now we still maintain this kind of services. But we stop some event. Now some of our city still run their storytelling program, but they outdoor or indoor. If they run indoor storytelling, they limited number of participants. But in outdoor, some public libraries run storytelling very successful, and people have very different experiences for listen story outside library. And in Taiwan, we have a different way to not only library delivery gift back to a parent. We also have hospital, clinics, and household registration office.
Yes.
So we have more than 3 ways to deliver a gift bag to a parent. It depends the cooperative organization of each city and the county. That's the situation of Taiwan now.
Okay. And so I heard you also canceled some of your gatherings, so to say, your activities where people meet.
Yes.
Are you already able to plan new meetings?
We closed the training courses for the volunteers and the libraries, or reading seminars for plans. And right now, we don't plan to reopen those meetings or gatherings, but we are still helping the libraries to build up the, how to say that, the toddler and the young children's reading zone. We are still doing that. The reading corner for the very young, we are still building that for the helping the libraries to building those reading zones, so they can enjoy those when they are done. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Peter, in the chat you want to?
There's an update from Angela in Edmonton, which might be interesting.
Yeah, we're just talking about sort of way that we're getting information to people. I'm from the Edmonton Public Library, so all of our libraries are closed, and our program is very much volunteer run. So our volunteers pack our kits, and they also deliver the kits to our health centers and hospitals. So obviously our volunteers are not working with us right now, and we've also temporarily laid off a majority of our staff at the library. So we're working with not a lot of people, but what we're doing right now is developing a physical voucher that we're hoping we can just mail in large quantities to our health centers, as they don't have kits right now. The voucher just kind of redirects people to our website, where we've got lots of early literacy information and content and videos, but then it'll also tell them to go to the library once we reopen to pick up a package. So that helps with the nurses, because it still gives them sort of a tangible thing that they're handing over, and our nurses have kind of been trained by librarians to provide tidbits of information and talk about the relationship between reading and literacy as well as overall health. So that gives them the opportunity to still have that conversation. And then hopefully that voucher will help redirect parents to the library and still manage to get them those books and those kits when we open again. But that's all we've got going because we've been suspended our deliveries for about a month now.
And no, nowhere in the near future do you expect to reopen? Probably do.
We don't have a timeline. I mean, I think we're like everyone else, maybe optimistic about fall. So we're looking at our budget for our program right now and figuring out if there's going to be a catch-up period for how many books we're going to need and stuff. I actually just talked to our health center yesterday to see the changes in immunization rates and stuff. And surprisingly, they told me that they haven't seen a decline at all. So that new parents are coming in with those 2 months old. So we try and catch them at the 2-month immunization with our books. But they let me know that there hasn't been a decline and that parents are still coming in. So that was interesting and surprising to me. And they're out of stock completely. So the vouchers are going to be our way to sort of mitigate that.
And the vouchers seem like a very creative idea. I also read that in South Africa, books are being printed in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Is that a... Yes? I heard a yes.
So, yes, that's
yes,
correct.
Direct.
Hi. Our books are used by a partner organization of ours called Nali Bali, and they adapt them for a newspaper format. So they complete, sometimes they print the pages are printed upside down, but there's instructions so that when you receive the newspaper, you cut and you fold, and then you've got a little book. So those newspaper supplements are distributed around the country to schools, preschools, to communities, etc., and they're free. So that is going to be very happy about the fact that that's continuing, because it means that there is some reading material still going out to schools.
So you were actually already doing that before the crisis, to print the books into the newspapers.
We were, yes. Yes, we were. What we have also started doing, which we didn't do before the crisis, is to distribute our books through feeding schemes. In South Africa, all preschools are closed, all schools are closed. We are under complete lockdown. But one of the big challenges for our society is the fact that many children are dependent on the school feeding schemes to get adequate nutrition. And so many organizations and many schools are continuing their feeding schemes in a different way. So they would, for instance, pack groceries for families, and then there's a weekly pickup. So we have managed to get a permit to be classified as an essential services provider. And therefore get our books delivered to these organizations that distribute food parcels, so that our books go out together with food parcels to families. And the feedback has been very, very positive. Parents are so relieved that they have something that they can share with their children, something to pass the time, something entertaining, something for emotional bonding. So we're very happy about that.
Yes, it sounds very interesting, and again, it seems like what we're doing is now more important than even before. I saw that.
There's a question from Annie, which
yes.
is good for Annie to ask, and maybe because there's been also some suggestion, there's some updates from Kirsty and from Shanda and others. Maybe they can answer in some way Annie's question.
Yes, please.
Hi everyone, and I just want to reinforce your point, Dan, about what we're doing being so important. And we have heard from a lot of our partners about how when they're dealing with so many difficult things, so many sad things, so many things where the news is so difficult, to be able to have still the focus on books and the connection between families over books is such an important thing for them. So we've been really, and we heard a story from one of our partners the other day about police looking for families that are vulnerable and at risk at the moment, and looking for ways that they could maybe find a positive to take along to those families to try to make some of the difficult things they're doing feel less challenging. So I really agree with that point. I wanted to ask a question that's related to that really. We've been wondering whether it might be possible to gift some of our books actually to grandparents rather than to children and parents. So to grandparents who are currently split, or maybe in some cases to fathers who are currently separated, so where there is a separation within families at the moment, or perhaps where a grandparent is in strict isolation because they are particularly vulnerable to the virus, whether it might be possible to gift a book to the grandparents, so that, and then to support the idea of a virtual reading between the grandparent and their grandchild. So probably not with the babies, maybe more with sort of 2-3-year-olds and upwards. But I just wondered whether anyone had in any way kind of whether anyone had any experience of that, or had thought about that idea of a virtual connection through giving a physical book to someone else in the family.
That's a very good question. I'm sure some people have experience with it.
Yeah.
We can either discuss it now or take it to the second half. But I'm happy to hear now if anybody has any experience with it.
Yes, I do. Dating from Children's Books Ireland. We haven't been gifting the books to grandparents, but we have worked on a campaign encouraging grandparents to share a story with their grandchildren over video conferencing software. So we put together a video and some easy instructions and tips and tricks on how to do that. But actually, Annie, this has given me an idea of how we could link up with libraries a little bit better, because I know one library local authority has been delivering books to older people that are cocooning, and possibly this is something they could include books for children as well.
So is that something you can share, Dayden?
The campaign, yeah, it's called Share a Story. I can maybe find it and drop it in the chat.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that would be nice. Anyone else who wants to come? Yeah.
Yeah, we have something similar in the Netherlands. We have a reading aloud campaign this whole year and also next year's. It's about grandparents, and we're not delivering the packs to the grandparents, but we're promoting it actually through social media for grandparents to read aloud to their children on distance. And we have some ambassadors, some well-known Dutch parents, grandparents, I mean, and they, well, through films, they show to grandparents how they do it, how they read aloud to their grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if I may add, Marijke, I actually saw on national television, I saw something about grandparents reading to their children through video conferencing, very much like we're doing now. And I thought that's something new that would never get that much attention in a normal situation, but right now it does, and that's because both the grandparents and the grandchildren are of course in a terrible situation that they can't meet and they can't see each other, and then reading out loud might be a solution. So that's a very inspiring thought, I think, and also one of the an example of one of the more digital responses to the crisis, if we can head to the second topic, if you all agree. So which is also about book gifting and your book gifting programs, but also we can talk about a wider range of topics, because most of you work in organizations that are about literacy or reading promotion. And so maybe you want to share or talk about the solutions you found to respond to the crisis in that sense. So one of the topics already raised by Book Dash before, and by some other people as well, that we could discuss, is the importance of child-parent attachment right now in this crisis. So some families being really in desperate need for something positive, like Annie just described. Another topic could be that maybe this crisis is a reason to rethink the way we look at digital books for very young children, because most of us, not all of us, I'm sure, or some of us have been wary to introduce digital readers to little children. But maybe right now, when books are not accessible in another way, that makes us want to rethink that. I'm not giving any answer, but it's something we could think about. Or maybe the response from libraries. So it's a bit broader right now, and it's an open discussion. So anyone who would like to start off with one of their solutions or topics, the floor is open. Please.
Hi there, I was just going to talk a little bit about a resource that we've produced, which sounds similar to what Dayden was talking about in terms of the hints and tips for delivering, for doing book reading online. Part of our program is also to train librarians and those working in early years settings to deliver bookbug sessions. So they're 30-minute story, song and rhyme sessions that usually take place in libraries or community venues. All of our libraries are closed at the moment, so we created a resource that would allow people to be able to deliver these sessions virtually online, which I can signpost in the chat as well. So it was a suggestion of what online platforms they could use, like Zoom for private, for meetings, or Facebook Live for promoting to a wider audience if they felt comfortable doing that. Also reminders around copyright permissions for sharing books from certain publishers. We're also creating a book list to go along with that as well, to make it clearer on what they can do rather than saying what they can't do. And in terms of the songs and rhymes copyright as well. So a lot of bookbug session leaders were already taking the initiative to deliver their own. So we've had some really good feedback and stories from people. In one of our local authorities, for example, South Lanarkshire, one of their sessions had over 9,000 views within the first week. So, but there's also quite a lot of stories we're getting from closed groups as well that have direct contact with their family groups. So they're a family support worker or what have you, and they know they know their families personally, so they're delivering online sessions in closed groups. So that's something that we've been sharing. Okay. We've also just been trying to highlight a lot of our digital content as well. So in terms of the book sharing, every year we put new books in our bookbug bags, and we get permission to record those being read to in a family setting. So we've been able to promote those as well as a way of kind of it's not the same as obviously an e-book or reading an e-book, but it shows and shares that same experience. We also launched our app last year, which has been getting a lot of attention over the past few weeks. It was really well used anyway, but at the moment I think we've sort of topped out around sort of 10,000 active users per month, which is quite good for us. We're putting new content on there all the time and launching a couple of new developments this week. But we're also trying to maybe redirect some of our budget for this financial year at really exploring the book sharing option further, which is something we were reluctant to do upon the release of the app. It was really a song and rhyme resource, and also a way of finding, of the audiences finding their nearest bookbug session. But we're really wanting to explore how book sharing can be shared sort of with families as well.
And apart from the amount of views, which activity would you think is most successful at the moment, or was new and is now successful? Could you give an insight to that?
I think just the sharing of songs and rhymes. So, and there's a lot of activity on social media as well about what people's favorites are. There's been a lot of new downloads for the app as well. So, a lot of our current, our previous users are still using it, but there's a lot of new ones as well. One of the new developments has been adaptive streaming, just to help with like home broadband and data contracts at home. And also you can put together your own playlists and things like that as well. So we've definitely seen a kind of increase in all the different features, really.
That's amazing. Anybody else who wants to comment on this or talk about their own initiatives?
I can speak to what we've been doing in Nova Scotia. So we normally would be doing it through hospitals, and we have bags of books and literacy materials that are prepared and then are distributed to the parents after they give birth. The hospitals are using up the supply that they currently have on hand, but then after that, they won't have that option. Our warehouses are closed and different reasons.
Nice voice.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I wasn't sure, so just trying to speak. So what we've decided to do, we've got two things that we kind of have on the go, one of which I commented on the thread here in the comments, which was that we have included materials, all the hospitals are on board in Nova Scotia, that they will give out upon discharge to the parents that directs them to our website. So very similar to what Edmonton was saying, where we can then mail them a bag. And then the other thing that we are doing, because we wanted to move towards the digital side of things as well in the meantime, in the interim, is we have created a basically like a birth to 3 month pack, and we're going to be looking at doing a 4 to 6 months as well after this, which has, we're lucky in that we've created at Read to Me some of the materials that are in the bag, so we have access to them, and so we can put in book recommendations for birth to 3 months. We can put in developmental milestones that parents are going to expect from birth to 3 months using the publications that we already have, and then also songs and rhymes, different things that we think will be helpful tips for parents. We've directed them to bookstores in Nova Scotia that are delivering. We're under complete lockdown as well, similar to some of the other countries where there is there's nothing open. So people who are open, small businesses, are delivering to people's houses, or they're doing pickup at the store. So we've included information about that. We've included information about the public libraries because they've moved to an online digital focus, and they've got you can get a library card right now if you don't already have one online. You don't have to worry if you didn't already have one. So basically pulling everything that has to do with books and reading in this area during COVID and putting it in one place and specifically focusing on those first 3 months. And then we're hoping that we'll be back in and running things maybe within 3 months, but we'll see what happens. So that's why we're planning to also do the 4 to 6 months just in case.
An interesting response from the library as well to
yeah.
And are those membership cards, are they for free? And
yes,
always, or
yeah.
for now?
Always no, for free. Yeah, always library cards are free here.
Oh, that's a good situation.
Yeah.
Maybe any other library responses from anyone?
I'm from a public library. We're totally closed too, so everything we're doing is completely online. I've got links to our online stuff in that document, but we're doing in terms of early literacy stuff, similar to what everyone else is saying, lots of information about how early literacy, songs and rhymes, and books can be used at home. We're trying to focus it on objects that people can use in the house without having to go to the library, go to the store. So if you've only got 1 or 2 books in your house, how can you read that book over and over again and tell a different story? How can you focus on the pictures and then the colors and counting and stuff like that? And what can you use in your house to learn new words without having toys or screens? So we're not really talking a lot about how to read ebooks to really young kids, but how to use like your voice and songs and non-screen activities to still reinforce early learning. We've got lots of early literacy videos that we're posting, lots of books for older kids, but mostly songs and rhymes for younger kids. And we just did our first Facebook Live baby lap time yesterday. And I think by the end of the day, we had over 5,000 unique views. So people are really keen with younger kids to get into the stuff. So we're actually pumping it out at a pretty quick content rate. We're doing lots of adult and older kids stuff too, but I think 98% of our online engagement is with toddlers, preschoolers, and babies. So there's definitely interest for it. But I would, check out our stuff if you want, and feel free to use any of it. It's pretty much all we're doing right now.
We definitely will. I hear a lot of information going to parents. I also know that some organizations are very much into sending out information to education systems, so to schools, to teachers, ideas for homeschooling, maybe also for the older children, not just the early years. Is there any experience with that someone would like to share, like how to help teachers to set up the homeschooling or the video schooling, so to say, because the homeschooling is mostly done by the parents, but I mean the video schooling, the video conferencing that they do with their pupils. Any ideas about that? I know that in Australia there have been some learning and activity instructions, right? Izumi, you've been very silent. Would you like to comment on the?
In South Australia, we've done. So you can elaborate on it, but we've been looking at putting together some literacy packs, which educators can give to their students because they were looking at staying home for the next term. That's sort of changing day by day at the moment. We don't really know what's happening. Moment, I think by week 3 of term 2 they should be heading back into schools, but we were looking at some packs which have a whole range of activities that go with some of our books from our publishing house that we have, so we can provide our books with some activities that they can do with their students or send home with their students, but also we have STEM activity booklets that we've developed as well, so we were going to put those in as well, and we've also been doing some downloadable activity books which we haven't done before, so that's something new that we're trialing for parents to download with different themes, so in the garden or in the kitchen, and not just activities that go with books, but also, you know, teaching them ways that they can use things around their house in new and different ways. And yeah, we've got lots of downloadable resources that we've just been promoting that we've collected over the last 15 years. So we've just been trying to re-promote those and let people know that they're there if they need them.
Great.
We've also actually, because we've got the publishing house, our authors and illustrators have been doing some YouTube videos for us about reading their stories. One of them, Mandy Foote, she read it on her farm with all her horses and chickens and things. So that was something different and exciting, and we've been putting those up, and we're promoting those to the educators and also to families as well, so they can have a story time at home.
Yeah, which is good. Because we also see that the writers and the children's book writers, usually they have school visits, and that's part of their job and part of their income. And now all that is gone. So we do try to support that in a way. That is that the booked their book presentations will be paid, although they won't be going. But that's a different story, maybe. Izumi, I was going to you to ask how the situation in Japan is, and then I think we're going to end the topic soon and discuss the results and the next steps. Or if anyone hasn't spoken yet and wishes to do so, this is an invitation to do so. But first, Izumi, please.
Yes, okay, thank you. I have a question. It's not nothing to do with digital. Is that all right?
That's okay.
Can I ask? Yeah. In Japan, we have we always have book start at a group health check venue. So group health check is not a good venue at the moment.
No.
So it's been banned nearly 2 weeks now. I think we are maybe a month behind in terms of the coronavirus, but it's been banned. So what we can do now is just to postpone and see how it goes. But some local authorities want to post that book start packs, and we think that it's really a good idea because as we have been discussing, that there are lots of families who need something quality thing to do at home at the moment. But we have been always talking about the importance of face-to-face delivering with messaging as well, and direct contact with parents and the librarians and volunteers. And it's been working for 20 years. So we on the other hand, we don't want to destroy what we have been making. And so, but through the conversation we had today, I thought maybe on top of the book pack sent by post, we might be able to put a letter saying a really nice message, and also a QR code to link to a video, which you can experience, book start experience, like showing how babies react and the message we want to send when delivering book start pack. So yes, I had an idea, and also, and another thing I wanted to hear your opinion was that if we make the posting book start a good model, when everything is over, people might say that it's easier and you don't need volunteer, you don't need librarian to be there all the time. So I don't want to want it happen.
Okay.
So yeah, so yeah.
Yes.
Do you have any discussions in your organizations like that?
Yes. So you're afraid that maybe if we do it online too good, too well, that maybe afterwards people will say that's the way we can always do it.
I think
I understand. I understand. I see that Brian maybe wants to respond.
I want to make the posting books that a really good experience as much as possible, because if not, it's waste of money, we believe. So I'm not afraid of making it really nice, but when everything is over.
You know, I'll just add, we've had the same conversations, and that's why, you know, our focus is still on, you know, physical books when we can do that, and then thinking through how do we frame the message around screens, so that yes, there's going to be an increase there, But how do we have the conversation around intention? And again, it's all for us, the thinking through the screens as a means for connection and opportunities to, yes, there will be more kind of, especially with younger kids, accessing screens maybe individually or more in isolation while parents are working or doing the things around the house. And yet we still want to convey the message that screens are a vehicle for engagement, and how can we continue to foster that ideal.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Anybody else who would like to, because we're nearing the end of the hour, and I don't want to make people stay if they don't want to. So anybody else?
We've had a question raised from Annie and from Ruth Ann at Book Trust about multilingual resources and whether we can be sharing those. I don't know if Annie wants to voice that.
Yes, thanks, Peter. Just very briefly, as we're coming to the end, but just to say that, one of the things we're finding is a real limitation around digital is that we can have story times and things like this, but we can't, they're all in English. And we are really worried that one of the groups most excluded from the digital will be those who are not native speakers. And just whether anyone has found a way of overcoming that in their own country, or if there's any particular shares we could do around story time in different languages that might help with that multilingual challenge.
Perhaps Anna from Sweden might answer that.
Hello from Sweden. Do you hear me? I'm in the northern part, and we don't have any lockdown and the library is running, but we have, like for free right now, a digital platform called Polyglot, and also Uglu, who has been translated children books in 50 different languages. So they are open and free for all families and preschools and daycare centers, for libraries to use now in this COVID time. So they have opened up. Otherwise, we need to pay for it, but it's for free for whole Sweden, and they are also running in different countries around the world. And also Mantra Lingua is opening up. Also, you can go on their website and check out for free. But you also have, in Sweden, we have the public libraries also open up ebooks for free and to download, also like films and so on. And also every public library now is on our national platform for learning for libraries, so we can learn about making digital solutions and storytelling and rhyme sessions as Bookbug in Scotland, and train up, and lots of Bookstart teams are doing it, and it's a huge success, and also connect to schools and teachers who are trained in different languages, so they invite them to come and tell stories and open up. But we are not in lockdown, so we have different solutions, and we are also doing lots of outdoor activities, but also strengthen parents and children who are vulnerable in different ways. But I think the digital is good, but we also need this warmth and this caring, and also to meet each other. So it's very important to have these close relationships right now, and also that the book can open up and give us some hope and some future, and also help us in this difficult time. And we grandparents, it's a good idea with FaceTime and reading sessions, and also parents in prisons and so on to connect to the children. We have different groups, so it's important with every kind of activities, I think, right now. Give hope and continue to work and find new solutions. We work a lot with playgrounds and do like digital solution with QR codes and different ways. But be open and try out right now.
Thank you, Hannah. I think we all agree. Anybody? I saw that Shanda was responding with a portal that is free online multilingual literacy resource. Shanda, could you maybe add the link? Oh, it's there. globalstorybooks.net. It's in the chat. Would you like to say something about it, or? You're muted.
I don't have a lot of experience with this website,
okay.
but I do know it has several African languages from all over the world, and they are books that are created by people, but it's wonderful to give people resources in their language.
Great, thank you. So I don't have any famous last words for this meeting. I did make some notes. I was really happy with your presence, all of you, and I've heard so many inspiring ideas, and I hope you all did, and that this helps to work on your response, which to me is already amazing how much has been done and how much work people have done to make the best of this situation, and in some ways to quote a cliche, you don't know what you've got until it's gone. It's from some song, but I do get a feeling that people get a sense now of the importance of reading together and coming together, but also to have this escape of stories and books, especially in families that are desperately in need for something positive, and books can be an answer to that. That's something we maybe already knew always, and we're always trying to tell people, and it's not a good thing about this crisis, but there is maybe a chance that we can turn this into getting hurt better. That's something I'm going to take from this meeting.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, Izumi?
Yes. Is it mute? Yes, I'm mute. Because I wanted to take this opportunity. It's not really a good one, but this opportunity to emphasize at the end of the crisis, emphasize it's really important to do books that face-to-face, or to have, for example, story time in the real world. So it's quite difficult to plan research because the situation and the environment is really different from normal time. So there will be a lot of bias. So it might not be a proper one, but I might send a questionnaire to the Bookstart target who receive Bookstart bug by post, and ask the same questions as the questions we have asked to the Bookstart parents who received Bookstart in proper way, so that, and then compare. So this is really extreme situation. So we might be able to use this opportunity to compare, and also to emphasize that something in the end if we use this opportunity.
Very good idea. Yes, yes, I understand and I agree. This is a chance to compare the real life moment and the real life book gifting compared to a digital one. Yes.
Yes, and I'm sure that when everything is finished and when they attend, everyone attends the real world story time, they appreciate it so much.
Yes.
Yes. So there's no wonder. Yeah, it's totally different. So we believe what we had been doing.
Yes.
Could I maybe add to Izumi's point? I really recognize what you were saying about the hesitation to move towards a postal model. I'd feel that too, because our program is a pilot and we're working with public health nurses, so it is on hold at the moment. But I would really feel that if we moved away from working through them, that we might not get back, because they would say, well, we're already overloaded, and they are completely overloaded. That they're like, oh, postal model works, and I think, yeah, I think it's a risk, definitely. But it'd be really interesting to see if people truly appreciate the difference between that face-to-face interaction, the modeling of the reading, etc.
Can I say something? Is that okay? Just on the postage. Is that quick? Is that okay if I say something really quickly?
Yes. Go ahead.
They're quite interesting with using the child and family health nurse and giving out the reading packs. We've been doing that in South Australia for 15 years. And it's really in the last, I would say, probably 2 years that the relationship between our organisation and the child and family health nurses has actually changed. And it's taken such a long time for them to really understand and appreciate as the whole organisation on the giving of the reading packs. And they're so now engaged that we don't want to lose that relationship. The nurses are going into the homes and they're giving the packs. But we also have another one where with the Read to Me, where we do post books, like 10 books straight out to children in out-of-home care. And every 3 months they get an additional 3 books as well. So we're actually doing both models, and we find that they're both working really well. And I think when the COVID-19 and when life can hopefully go back to normal, I think people will be wanting to have that face-to-face and wanting to be able to go back to the library, back to the story times, because they're being so isolated. So I think and hope that, you know, there will be the best of both worlds, and we can have some postage, but also we'll go back to the face-to-face and the role modelling and the messaging. And I think that's really important that we continue to do that as well.